Buddhism for Today, The Essential Wisdom of the Threefold Lotus Sutra by Nikkyo Niwano. Part 1, The Sutra of Innumerable Meanings, Chapter 2, Expounding the Dharma. As its title suggests, this chapter contains the Buddha's explanation of the Dharma in the Sutra of Innumerable Meanings. Shakyamuni describes how, following his awakening, he introduced his teachings in a certain order and for particular purposes. Although he taught the Dharma in many different ways, in this chapter, the Buddha reveals that there is actually only one universal truth, and that this single principle gives birth to an innumerable number of teachings. This chapter encompasses the core of the Sutra of Innumerable Meanings and presents its main ideas. After finishing his offering of verse praising the Buddha in Chapter 1, the Bodhisattva Great Adornment addresses Shakyamuni together with all the other Bodhisattvas. We in this assembly would like to ask a question regarding the Buddha's teachings. We wonder if the World-Honored One would be so kind as to grant our request. The Buddha answers by welcoming their request. Good, my good children. You well know that now is the right opportunity to do so, because if you do not ask now, you may not have another chance. Before long I will leave this world, and you should not have any remaining doubts after I am gone. So ask any question you wish, and I will answer them. Great Adornment and the other Bodhisattvas then respond in unison by posing this question. World-Honored One, for Bodhisattvas who cultivate the great vehicle to quickly accomplish supreme perfect awakening, what teachings should they practice? The Buddha responds to Great Adornment's question by introducing the teaching of innumerable meanings. If you aspire to learn the teaching that allows you to quickly accomplish supreme perfect awakening, you should study the teaching known as innumerable meanings. If you desire to learn this teaching, first of all you must fully understand that although all things in existence appear different from each other and seem to constantly change from moment to moment, in truth, their original nature and attributes do not change. That is to say, you must thoroughly grasp that all things exist in a state of equality that transcends their mutual differences. This state of equality is known as their emptiness. You must realize that on a universal level, everything exists in a mutual state of perpetual, unchanging, and interdependent harmony, a state of tranquility. The six realms of existence. The Buddha continues, but because living beings do not know this truth, they think about everything from the standpoint of their own self-interest, making arbitrary distinctions between everything, like, this is a certain thing and that is another, or selfishly determining that this will benefit me, but that will not. Accordingly, this gives rise to all sorts of unwholesome ideas and states of mind, causing them to wander round and round through the six suffering states of existence. These six realms of existence, also known as the six destinies or six paths, through which beings transmigrate or wander, are the realms of hells, hungry spirits, beasts, asuras, human beings, and heavens. There are two ways of understanding the six realms. First, they are a way of talking about the emotional or mental states of individual human beings, and second, they are a theory of cosmology, explaining the physical structure of the world and the places in which human beings live and reincarnate. Here, let's explore the six realms as the changing emotional and mental states of human beings. The realm of hells is the mental or emotional state we experience when our minds are consumed by anger. When we simmer in anger, everyone and everything around us seems to be an enemy. For example, in a domestic quarrel, even the cups and plates that we smash in anger seem to be provoking us. But breaking things or even hitting another person will not settle the score. In the long run, the one who is angry actually suffers the most. This state of mind is the realm of hells. We are in the realm of hungry spirits when we experience mental or emotional states of insatiable greed and craving. If craving is strong enough, no matter how much of something we obtain, we still want more and more without end. Greed or craving is not limited simply to money or material things. We also crave fame and people's love and affection. The mindset of the realm of hungry spirits is greed and craving that knows no bounds or satisfaction. We are in the realm of beasts when we experience the emotional or mental state that is without wisdom, characterized by foolishness or ignorance. People experience the realm of beasts when they are incapable of reason and are instead ruled by animalistic natural instincts without understanding the consequences of their actions. The warlike asuras were thought to be the mightiest of the demons and the enemies of the gods. By extension, the condition of the realm of asuras is the emotional or mental state of selfishly looking out only for number one, with nothing but one's own interests at heart. When people have this mentality, they inevitably lock horns with one another, conflict emerges, and disputes and wars transpire. When we try to imagine the realm of asuras, we might picture a scene of bloody carnage, but if we think about it, such scenes are, like the realm of asuras itself, actually horrible conflicts between selfish minds. Human beings experience all four of the unwholesome states of mind discussed above, but our conscience suppresses them to a significant degree, preventing anger, greed, ignorance, and selfishness from manifesting in their extremes. The realm of human beings is the stable, emotional or mental state of the ordinary person. The realm of heavens is a state of blissful joy. This is not the enduring joy attained through the awakening of the Buddha, however, but a sensual and emotional bliss, a joy rooted in delusion. For this reason, the realm of heavens is nothing but a temporary state of joy, and living beings are always in danger of plunging headlong into the realms of hells, hungry spirits, beasts, or asuras whenever something unpleasant happens. The heaven called the summit of all existence is the blissful but temporary state of mind we experience when we feel like we are in the highest heaven. In this case, heaven is a mental state where there is no suffering or worry. If a person has not attained awakening, they will never truly be content, even in heaven. People often think that if they could just strike it rich and become a billionaire, living in a regal mansion surrounded by servants, then all their troubles would surely be over. Unfortunately, reality doesn't work this way. Even if the proverbial paradise did exist, and if it were a place where we spent the whole day doing nothing but lounging around, we would soon tire of life there and certainly start complaining that we want something to do. The realm of heavens is this state of mind. Transmigration through the six realms, in this way of understanding them, is the emergence of these six emotional and mental states, one after another in the human mind. If we do not learn effective techniques or cultivate spiritual practices, our minds will continually wander round and round these six realms, with no end to our suffering and delusion. This teaching most certainly rings true for anyone who reflects on themselves for a moment. The four phases. All things are never at rest. The Buddha next teaches the Bodhisattvas as follows. When Bodhisattvas see living beings wandering through the six suffering states of existence, they should be moved to the point of experiencing feelings of great compassion and aspire to help living beings escape from those suffering states. For this purpose, Bodhisattvas must see deeply into all dharmas, which is to say, all things that exist. If their knowledge of all things is profound, Bodhisattvas will naturally fathom the four phases of change. They will understand arising, what kind of things will now come into existence. They will comprehend stabilizing, that those things just arisen will now continue in the same state for a time. They will grasp changing, the way things change their forms, and they will know extinguishing, how all things eventually reach their end. In this way, Bodhisattvas will also come to understand the principle by which wholesome as well as unwholesome things appear. And, having a good grasp of this principle of all things, Bodhisattvas will also come to perceive that all things are never at rest. In other words, nothing remains in the same state, not even for an instant, but continually changes from one moment to the next. Once Bodhisattvas realize this fact, they become able to know the faculties or capacities, natures, and desires of each suffering living being as perfectly as if they had actually gained direct access to their minds. Innumerable meanings arise from the one Dharma. The Buddha continues, but because living beings' natural tendencies and desires are limitless, and their aspirations are also many and varied, Bodhisattvas must respond to them with innumerable ways of expounding the Dharma. Because ways of explaining the Dharma are innumerable, the meanings of those teachings must also be innumerable. Bodhisattvas, you must know that although the teachings are innumerable, their origin is the one Dharma from which they all arise. What is the one Dharma? It is universal truth. And what is this truth? It is the state of having no attributes. This means that the basic nature of all things transcends the mutual differences between them. All things are in a state of equality because they all possess Buddha nature. Buddha nature is the ultimate reality, the true form of all things. Bodhisattvas, the merits of the compassion that naturally develops when one awakens to this truth are clear and never futile. Because this teaching is truly able to remove suffering and bring happiness to living beings, wherever they may be. If bodhisattvas learn this approach to the Dharma, called Innumerable Meanings, they will, without fail, be able to quickly accomplish supreme perfect awakening. On receiving this teaching from the Buddha, the Bodhisattva Great Adornment once again asks a question in order to clarify the Buddha's teaching for the benefit of those who did not understand. Although we understood very well what the Buddha has just taught, we cannot let the average, everyday people who may not have understood remain confused. So I ask once again. Great Adornment then recounts the core teachings of the Buddha. Tathagata, for more than 40 years since you gained awakening, you have consistently taught the meaning of the four phases of all things for the sake of living beings. You also showed us the meaning of suffering. The truth of suffering is that human life can be a realm of suffering. In addition, you revealed the meaning of emptiness to us. Though all things appear differentiated, we must perceive the equality of all things that transcends those differences. Since your awakening, you have also continually explained the meaning of transience, or impermanence. In this world, there is not a single thing that continues unchanging and in the same state. And from you we also heard the teaching of non-self or interdependence. In this world, there is not a single thing or person that exists entirely independently under their own power. This is why we must not be attached to our small sense of self. You also expounded various other teachings for us that disclose the true state of all things. The Buddhas teach one and only one truth. The Bodhisattva Great Adornment continues. The living beings who have heard these teachings have attained various levels of enlightenment and come to harbor the desire to become bodhisattvas, developing the aspiration for awakening, bodhicitta, and there are even some who have attained the highest levels of bodhisattvahood. For 40 years, up to this day, the Tathagata has expounded the same truth through progressively deeper teachings. It is difficult for many in the Great Assembly, however, to clearly understand the relationship between all of these teachings. Please, World-Honored One, out of compassion for all living beings, can you explain this so that everyone who hears your Dharma now and in the future will be completely free of doubts? The Buddha responds to the Bodhisattva Great Adornment by praising him, saying, "Good, my good son, good. You have stated your question well. Yours is truly great compassion. As for the sake of all living beings, you have asked me about the meaning of this sublime, extremely profound, and supreme great vehicle that I teach. Your compassion is extraordinary." The Buddha then explains the relationship between all the teachings he had given during his more than 40-year career of sharing the Dharma. Good children, after sitting correctly in meditation at the place of the way under the Bodhi tree, I achieved supreme perfect awakening. When I gazed on all things with the Buddha eye, which I attained through my realization, I could see that their forms were beyond the expression of words, and it was not possible to describe it to everyone at the time. Why? Because I knew that the natural tendencies and desires of living beings are not the same, but are all different according to the individual, and for this reason, I employed methods tailored to the individual, using my powers of skillful means, and have continued to teach the Dharma in various ways for more than 40 years, but I have not yet exhaustively explained the profoundest depths of truth. Because the capacity to understand the teaching differs according to the individual, all have not been able to attain supreme perfect awakening quickly. Good children, my Dharma is like the water that can wash away the delusions of living beings and purify their minds. But although all water is one, and that it possesses the same nature, water from a stream, river, a well, a pond, a brook, and a canal, while all being water, are nevertheless different. The nature of my Dharma is the same. Although I seem to teach the same thing, in that the ideas I explained to you in the early, middle, and later periods of my career all cleanse living beings of their defilements, there are differences between my earlier, middle, and later discourses. Good children, when I arose from beneath the Bodhi tree and went to Deer Park near Varanasi, I rolled the Dharma wheel of the Four Noble Truths for 5 people who became my first disciples, including Anyata Kandinya. There too, I taught that superficially all things that exist, including human beings, appear different, but at their core they are all in a state of equality with no distinction. While on the surface things may change, they are forever unchanging at their core. In the middle period, I was saying the same when I taught the 12 causes and conditions and the 6 paramitas for all the monks as well as the bodhisattvas. And now, here again, as I explain this teaching of the Great Vehicle Sutra of Innumerable Meanings, the meaning of what I am telling you remains the same. During these 3 periods of my teaching career, the words I spoke were exactly the same, but the meaning implied by those words differed. And because of this difference in meaning, living beings understood those words differently, and, since their understanding differed, they naturally experienced varying levels of enlightenment. You can understand this very well by observing the differences in the awakenings of living beings who heard the teachings I expounded in the beginning at Deer Park, where I taught the 4 Noble Truths, and those who heard my teachings during the middle period, when I taught the 12 Causes and Conditions, and finally, the living beings who heard me teach the 12 divisions of expansive sutras. In other words, from the very beginning, I have described one and only one truth, and this is not what I alone do. All the myriad Buddhas are the same. They teach the same one truth as I. Although the universal truth is one and only one, Buddhas explain the truth using different techniques that perfectly fit the aspirations of each living being. The Buddhas appear in innumerable forms, manifest their liberating work in innumerable ways, and expound innumerable diverse teachings to living beings. Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. Shakyamuni Buddha continues, "My good children, the state of mind of a Buddha is so extremely profound and inconceivable that it is beyond the comprehension of people who practice the 2 vehicles. By this I mean Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. Shravakas are people who hear the teachings of the Buddha and attain a certain degree of awakening by repeatedly practicing what they have heard. We might alternatively describe these people as followers who practice the teachings of the Buddha as a kind of apprenticeship. Pratyeka Buddhas are often described as people who gain enlightenment by understanding causation, or those who seek enlightenment alone. They are practitioners who lead solitary lives apart from society and seek enlightenment for themselves by understanding impermanence through the contemplation of various phenomena and events. In other words, we can think of them as experientialists practicing the teachings of the Buddhas through personal experiences. A Buddha state of mind is beyond the comprehension of even bodhisattvas, who attain the highest spiritual level of all practitioners of the teachings. The state of mind of a Buddha can only be understood among the Buddhas themselves." Then the Buddha continues as follows, "Therefore, my good children, you must aim to quickly attain the highest awakening by practicing the teachings of innumerable meanings that I am now explaining to you. Truly I tell you, this is a teaching that is properly in accord with truth and supremely profound. Because it is guarded by the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, those who truly undertake the cultivation of the teaching will never be defeated by any hindrance whatsoever, nor will they lose heart. Whatever the changes in their circumstances, they will not be led astray, no matter how distorted the views they encounter, nor will they be destroyed by the cycle of birth and death. All you who cultivate the practices of the Great Vehicle, in order to attain the highest awakening quickly, you must learn this extremely profound and supreme Sutra of Innumerable Meanings. The Sutra tells us that after the Buddha has finished speaking, the entire world resonates in response to him, shaking back and forth and producing all manner of beautiful, unearthly signs. Rains of heavenly flowers fall, and necklaces, jewels, and the aroma of heavenly fragrances spiral down as offerings to the Buddha, Bodhisattvas, Shravakas, and the rest of the great assembly. Many bodhisattvas enter a deep state of concentration because they have firmly attained a profound understanding of the teaching of the Sutra of Innumerable Meanings. Many other bodhisattvas also attain access to dharanis. Access to dharanis means the ability to lead a great many people, prevent unwholesome behavior, and encourage wholesome behavior. Moreover, all the monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, as well as other beings in the assembly, obtain awakening according to their level of spiritual progress. All beings in the assembly experience together the same aspiration to attain Buddhahood by following and earnestly spreading Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings.